I, 34M, got married 9 years ago to my wife Jessica, 33F. Jessica and I have 2 children, Robin, 7F, and Theo, 5M. Growing up, I didn't have a family. I was a foster kid who was bounced around a lot because sometimes my bio mother would take me back, but she'd always end up losing custody again or placing me back. When she finally stopped trying, I was 11 and too old for most people who wanted babies or really little kids. So I aged out of the system without being adopted or finding a family. I had hoped when Jessica and I met that I'd be welcomed by her family. But that's not how it went. Took me years to figure it out though. They look down on me. They're not totally obvious about it, but I see it in the way they are with me versus the way they're with the other sons/daughters-in-law. Like asking them about Christmas plans but saying they didn't expect us to do anything else because I don't have a family. Or asking about the others' jobs and promotions but never me, then acting so shocked both times Jessica or I mentioned I was promoted. There was a time when my sil mentioned a foster kid who won a scholarship to college and it made it into the local news. The whole family's reaction was, "Oh wow, a foster kid making it to college is so unexpected," and Jessica pointed out I went to college. They looked a little uncomfortable and I heard 2 of her siblings whisper something about Jessica and that story, so I assumed they believed she lied about where we met. They don't make an effort for my birthday. They make assumptions that I don't spend time with my kids. They assume any effort made by me is me doing it for Jessica and don't believe me when I say it's not. Yet they will always ask for my help with repairs around the house or assembling something, because I'm good at that stuff. I have helped Jessica's parents and all her siblings at least twice. Once I realized, with help from therapy, that they really didn't like me and seemed to think less of me for being a foster kid. I did that stuff for Jessica and not for them. But then a few weeks ago Jessica's parents had issues with the stairs. I went and fixed them up. I was hours working on one part and had to go and get extra materials. It was a whole thing. Some of the family came over while I was there and Jessica's parents made food for them. But nothing for me. When I asked them if there was any for me, they told me they didn't think I'd want to eat after working so hard. For hours. With no food in between. I told them they didn't think that, they simply didn't want to be polite to me and offer food after doing all that work for them. I was called out by Jessica's parents and her siblings. Jessica took my side, as did some of the siblings' spouses. But I was called out again for not helping fix a shelf for one of Jessica's sisters and saying never again would I help any of them. They said family helps family. I asked them when they ever treat me like family. Comment 1. You're not a husband or Jessica's partner. You're a built-in handyman and that's all they'll ever look at you at. The hired help. You should tell Jessica that she can keep in all the contacts you want from their family, but you need to go very low contact or no contact at all with them, and that's it. Maybe one holiday a year and that's about all I would do. And if they ever ask for help again, say my hourly rate is $500 an hour and I need 3 hours up front. Comment 2. NTA, it's embarrassing that your wife has let them treat you like that with no repercussions. I guarantee that she knows exactly how they feel about you and she continues to let them treat you like less than. No one deserves to be treated like that, especially when they have the gall to ask you to do things for them. I'd be having a serious conversation with your wife about her complacency in their abusive behavior towards you and why she doesn't address it. You know very well they talk shit behind your back and she apparently just lets them. The only way they will respect you is if she does something about it. She is just as guilty as the rest of them. Emo. Comment 3. NTA. They don't treat you as family, why should the reverse be true? Jessica darn well better take your side. Their rude and demeaning treatment of you should have never been allowed to come to this point. Step way back, and certainly don't help. If you are only tolerated for what you can do for them, that's not a reason worth keeping. Let Jessica deal with her parents, and you and she really should concentrate on modeling good behavior for your own nuclear family rather than pandering to hers. My wife, 32F, and I, 34M, went to the gym yesterday morning and at some point my wife, we'll call her Laura, scratched her finger on something. Laura has a history of being selectively sensitive to pain and discomfort. She is a strong and capable woman that I love, but if it's 80 degrees with a breeze, Laura will talk herself into it being too cold to stay outside. The joke between us is she is like the princess and the pea story. These things happen often. I am not exaggerating in the slightest when I say this time the cut was less than half a centimeter wide and 2 millimeters across, just surface level, no larger than a paper cut. Later that night she remembered the cut and had what I would describe as a meltdown. She said her finger pain was throbbing, she was feeling nauseous from the pain and said it was becoming too much. I offered to clean it with hydrogen peroxide, but she said it would hurt too much. I said it bubbles but doesn't burn like alcohol and you need to clean it if you cut it on gym equipment because it's dirty. As soon as I put a few drops of hydrogen peroxide on it she collapsed to her knees and said she could not continue. I admit I got a little upset at the theatrics. But it was nothing new at this point. Then after I rinsed the wound in the sink, she is still on her knees crying. I told her I was going to get Neosporin and a band-aid, to which she begged me not to add Neosporin because it would hurt. I explained to Laura that Neosporin actually would cause no pain and even add potential relief. She yelled when I put it on and nearly fainted. At this point I was a little upset and potentially the asshole. I tried to explain to Laura that her body was very resilient and she is a tough person because I've seen it in our workouts and the way she can work through brutal work challenges and environments. However, she needs to work on her psychological hang-up on discomfort like this. We want to have kids in next 2 years and in all honesty I don't think she can handle childbirth right now. I said it's something we can work on together, but to start, she needs to get serious and adopt the mentality that her body can handle a lot. I told her it's upsetting that she seems to just give up and surrender to any pain like she has no will to shake it off. What example would we be setting for our child? What would happen if you were injured and needed to get help without me? We ended up getting into an argument about this. I feel like in a hole, but I don't know how I could have approached this differently. Comment 1. There are neurological conditions that would explain your wife's seemingly extreme reaction to sensations the rest of us would consider non-painful. If you haven't explored those with a specialist, maybe it's time. I think asking her to shake it off if you haven't discussed it with a doctor would make YTA. Your wife is experiencing extreme distress. Take her seriously. Comment 2. She is 34, not a child. Why are you not asking why she hasn't realized her reaction is extreme and hasn't been seeking medical help? You can't help an adult who doesn't want to change. Comment 3. I'm not going to call you the asshole because I absolutely could not live with that amount of drama on a regular basis, but you should probably consider either getting her to see a doctor for her pain tolerance issues or getting her to see a therapist. In the meantime, let her deal with her own injuries. If she complains about how much pain she's in, offer to either give her Tylenol or take her to the ER, but otherwise leave her alone to melt down. If she stops getting attention for them, she might stop doing it. Either way, you're right about kids. Even if there were any way in hell she could survive pregnancy, let alone childbirth, you'd risk having her turn your kids into neurotic hypochondriac messes. Quick details. Daughter, 16, is a junior in high school. She has excelled her entire life at volleyball and plays on a prestigious club team in our area. She is currently being scouted by Division I universities. 2 weeks ago, her high school had prom. She went, even though I thought she shouldn't. She had an out-of-state tournament that she skipped to go to prom. Other girls on the team skipped their school's prom for this tournament. I told her what I thought she should do, but I allowed her to make her own decision and wasn't going to interfere. She had another tournament this past weekend where, unsurprisingly, she barely played. She normally starts and plays most games, but she sat on the bench most of the time for this tournament. She told me that she thinks this is unfair, and she is being benched because she went to prom. She wants me to talk to the coach about her decision and make sure it doesn't happen again. I told her what I felt. I flat out told her no, I would not talk to her coach. I told her that she is part of a team, and had a commitment to them, and she decided to be selfish and go to a silly dance. She argued with me saying how this is a special occurrence. I reminded her two things. 1. That other girls on the team prioritized the tournament over their proms. And 2. She's lucky to be as talented as she is, and she will most likely not pay for college. This is an opportunity all those prom goers would probably love to have. I warned her this would happen, and she decided not to listen to me. She is still upset with me. I told her I hope she learns something about being part of a team. My husband thinks I am wrong because prom is important to a teenager and thinks the coach is being unfair. But I have zero issue with what the coach did. Comment 1. YTA. Holy shite, your daughter is literally excelling in life, being scouted by Division I universities, and you're upset she wants to have the slightest hint of a social life? If she was a general underperformer or did something genuinely bad, sure, but all this girl did was go to one social event and she's being blatantly punished for it. Sure, the other girls went to the tournament, and that's great, but your daughter starts and plays most tournaments because she's a skilled player, and suddenly she's sitting bench. That's just blatant retaliation for missing one tournament, and instead of helping her stand up for herself, you're scolding her for daring to want to do anything but work for one night? Okay. Comment 2. NTA. I'm surprised by all the YTA answers here. The coach has to do what's best for the team. The coach has decided that means playing your daughter less. That's the coach's decision. Talking to the coach is not going to do your daughter any favors. She put herself above the team. The sooner she learns that her choices will have natural consequences, the better. Comment 3. And that's a fine way to say it. She made a choice and now she's living with the consequences of the choice. NTA for not talking to the coach. But that's not all OP said. She said she was selfish for going to prom, failed to live up to her commitments, etc. That seems uncalled for. I think it's right to explain the consequences, but then let the consequences speak for themselves without the extra comments. Ever since I gave birth 4 months ago, so I have 4 kids total, my mother-in-law has been showing up whenever she wants, and when she's here, she always helps herself to whatever she wants. She has never offered to help me or the baby in any way, shape or form. She's basically here to see her son and that's it. About 3 weeks ago I made a small pot of coffee, enough for 2 cups. I went to go nurse the baby while waiting, and at some point my mother-in-law shows up, lets herself inside. When I came out, she had drank the entire pot. I had no coffee grounds left. Or she's eaten my leftovers straight out of the fridge multiple times. And she's always like, thanks for the food/coffee. As if I offered it to her when I absolutely didn't, because all she's doing is making my life miserable. I told my husband to speak to her about it and he told me he did, but I truly don't think so. I spoke up the last time she was here, 3 weeks ago, and told her she needed to stop helping herself because she's eating and drinking stuff that I wanted and or made for myself. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then stopped coming around for a while. Well, today I made 4 homemade pizzas. I told the kids to come help themselves to dinner and that I had to go get the baby down for a nap real quick and would be right back. Well, it took me like 45 minutes because the baby is fussy, she just had shots. I come back out and all the pizza was gone and my mother-in-law and husband are sitting there chowing away. I just said, "Are you ducking kidding me right now?" My husband asked what was going on and I said, "You guys couldn't have even left me a ducking slice?" "Sure, let's feed the ducking neighborhood before I even get to eat." "That's so awesome of you guys. Thanks." And start to walk off. My oldest son, 13, comes in and he's like, "Mum, I left you out a plate." I put it right on the counter and walks over to grab it and lo and behold, that's gone too. Mother-in-law said I thought it was leftover from dinner. So my son's apologizing to me even though he did nothing wrong, but my mother-in-law and husband just stand there. They literally aren't saying anything. So I looked at both of them and said, "You both need to leave, now." My husband then decides to speak, saying that it was an honest mistake and that no one meant any harm, and said I was making a mound out of a molehill, which honestly just pissed me off further, so I snapped again and said yeah, except every time your ducking mother comes here, I end up going without because she eats or drinks my portion of everything. But sure, let's defend someone taking food out of my mouth, shall we? His mother just storms out of the house and my husband looks at me like I'm insane, so I say quick, chase her and walk out. My husband thinks I'm ducking mental and that this all could have been resolved if I had acted like an adult. He won't come home. But at this point, I don't even want him to come home because it means his mother will stay away. Comment 1. NTA. They are both infuriating. What husband is okay with his wife going hungry? Especially when she needs strength and nourishment to raise his children. He's a disgrace. Comment 2. NTA. Your husband is an A and is enabling his mother, who is 100% doing this intentionally. I bet your son has clocked this and that's why he tried to save you a plate. He sounds very sweet BTW. I don't blame you for not wanting your husband to come home. Sounds like your life is easier without him there.